Back on The Pulse, looking at all things people, power, and politics. We're glad you're with us. Here to talk about the Gordie Howe Bridge opening being delayed again. Detroit City Council member Mary Waters and Troy Mayor Ethan Baker. The mayor of Troy does have a lot of connections with Canada through some work that he's been doing through the years. And, of course, Councilwoman, having been in city politics for a while, Canada's your neighbor, so and all of our neighbors. Are you concerned about what's going on right now with these delays?
Certainly, I'm concerned about it, and the fact that so many people utilize that bridge. We've got nurses that come over. We have commerce that has to come over. Now, the Ambassador Bridge is a legacy bridge, and certainly, I don't believe that we should be vilifying the Maroon family. They built that bridge some years ago. It has served all of us well. There's a need for both bridges. Have you ever looked at that traffic going to and from?
I've been stuck in it.
We need both of the bridges, and so I hope that it certainly happens. And I know that President Trump is the sole holdup on that bridge. He's the reason that it's not open.
Not the Maroons at all. You don't believe that perhaps that the competition of having another bridge would be something that they would?
Well, the Maroons might have talked to President Trump about it, but President Trump is the only person who has the power to make sure that that happens.
Mayor Ethan Baker, we know that there was a point a few months back where we understand there was some kind of a meeting between someone from the Maroon team with Howard Lutnick, with the Commerce Secretary there, and then after that we saw, kind of a plan that got stymied. Lift the curtain for us for the people at home. What, politically speaking, what could be happening here? And do you believe that we're going to be any closer to the bridge opening up in the next few days?
I think we're closer. Obviously, I was very interested in the communication that came from the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority this morning, saying basically, it's going to have benefits for both Canada and the United States, and both the United States and Canada are working to fix a few things before they finally do the opening, which is the reason they canceled today. So I think that, politically, the statement was very carefully crafted to make sure there is no blame posted or pasted on anyone specifically, even though the councilwoman's blamed President Trump solely, but that's all right.
He's the one that has the power to do it. It's called bridge politics.
He does. And, as it relates to the Maroon family, obviously they've had a long history playing politics in this region with their pocketbooks and with the bridge, and they've had the monopoly on bridge traffic for all these decades.
But so do we have to wait for, look, you got the USMCA deal, which for those who aren't, following it very closely, that essentially replaces the old NAFTA deal from that went away. But hey, let's have this new U.S.-Mexico-Canada deal, this trade deal, setting parameters forth. Are we going to wait and hold the bridge up until that deal is done? Is that what you're thinking is going to happen, Councilwoman?
I wish President Trump would tell us exactly what he's thinking, but he has not. He holds all of the cards. I mean, it could be any number of things that are unresolved for President Trump. And until he tells us exactly what that is, we won't know. So we're looking forward to that. We want our nurses here. We want our doctors to be able to come over. We want commerce to be able to come over. We need that bridge open, and we also need to continue to utilize the Ambassador Bridge. I don't know what all of the fuss is about. I mean, this is a deal that Rick Snyder did back in 2012 with Canada. He said it was cheaper for them to build the bridge, and so now that it's built, we can't change that. The bridge is there, but there certainly is a need for both bridges.
How important is it from a public relations point of view for the White House to come out and say, hey, here's what we're waiting on, or here's what we're doing?
Well, I don't think they're going to. They don't typically do that. And the president's been very preoccupied with what's going on in the Middle East, obviously. We've seen a lot of news coming out of Iran today, so it doesn't surprise me that we're not hearing directly from the president. I think we in Michigan are very fortunate to have Ambassador Hoekstra over there working on our behalf because he's a Michigander, and he understands the important relationship that we have with Canada that I think a lot of people in the rest of the country, even in nearby states or in New York, which also borders Canada, they don't fully understand the importance of the Windsor, the Detroit connection, and how this bridge is needed not just for the nurses and doctors, but for the movement of commerce and all those goods having that access directly from I-75 onto their 401 freeway is going to be a huge
So when you free it up, it also lowers the price, right? I mean, you're talking about competition with a bridge, so the tolls go down. That makes travel travel a little bit better, and it makes commerce cheaper between the two countries. But there's also access, we understand, for bikers and runners to be able to go over this bridge. Gordie Howe, is that right?
Absolutely. I'm probably not going to run across it because I'm afraid of heights. But
no, not a good place for you to be.
Not a good place.
You can drive there. Yeah.
Councilwoman takes the tunnel.
Yeah, exactly.
She takes the tunnel.
We know.
Now we know.
I'll go across it as long as somebody else is driving. Okay. But unlike you, I believe that President Trump knows exactly what's going on with this bridge. You know, he's that kind of person. He's a nuts and bolts kind of person. He pays attention to that type of detail. He does know.
So let's talk about what needs to. If you're President Trump, and this is a fun game for a Democrat lawmaker to make a politician here, Mary Waters, Councilwoman, what does President Trump want right now, and what needs to happen for that bridge to open up in your mind? If you really believe that President Trump is the person who's holding up part of this, what is it that you think he wants? What's his wish list?
There is something that he wants from Canada. I don't know what that something is, and it could have something to do with trade.
Concessions.
Yes, concessions and so forth. It could be. We won't know until President Trump tells us what that is, if he should decide to do so. He may or may not.
How important is it, and I want to kind of underscore this, I think you mentioned, obviously, former Governor Snyder, Whitmer, Snyder, Republicans, Democrats, everyone in Michigan who has a Michigan connection, Republican or Democrat, understands the importance of this bridge. Right. Is there someone who can get to President Trump's ear in the next 24, 36 hours to tell him that, even in the midst of this conflict in Iran?
I'm not sure who's left. I mean, if Pete Hoekstra can't do it, I'm not sure that there is somebody who really hasn't dialed in and has his ear on the specific
Harry Johnson, John James?
Johnson, right? You know, I don't know, Roop. That's an interesting question. I think the reality is we have more leverage. We're the superpower when it comes to United States versus Canada relationships. I was with some Canadian legislators last week and speaking with them about this, and they recognize that we do hold all the cards, and it is maybe not solely up to President Trump, but pretty a lot of power rests with him. And it's a challenge for them because they have nothing to do. They can't fight back anymore. You saw Prime Minister Carney brought in the Chinese cars, which is a concern for them as well, not just us. But their bargaining power is so weak as it compares to us. They need this bridge to be open, and I think they are going to give some concessions because at the end of the day, it is vitally important to their economic vitality in Ontario and the rest of the country.
Councilwoman, Governor says it could be days or weeks before we see this bridge open. You're hopeful for one or the other?
Oh, Governor Whitmer, it should open, and with former Governor Rick Snyder, this is a way that he's trying to rehabilitate himself, especially after what happened back in Flint. He's coming out a lot more lately. I saw him up at Mackinac a great deal, walking around, participating in a lot more things, and so this is an opportunity for him to make sure that he leaves the whole Flint issue, the water issue, behind.
Well, I think it's also important to note, though, that despite the Flint water issue, one of his passion projects was to make sure that international bridge was built separate from the Flint issue. Both things can be true, right?
Yeah, sure. Both things can be true, absolutely. But I've got to tell you, I still say that President Trump holds all the cards. There's nobody going to have me change my mind on that.
My prediction, Roop, the bridge will open. The president will take credit for it because he'll have a better deal that he puts out.
He's going to get a deal.
We understand
he will get a deal.
This show is often watched by some folks who are in Washington at the White House, and perhaps this will get to the president's ears. And if it does, they heard you loud and clear, Councilwoman Mary Waters.
He won't have it any other way. He must control.
It is good to see you. We thank you for joining us here. Troy Mayor Ethan Baker, Councilwoman Mary Waters. Great to have you on the show. A heads up.